So what we are going to do is we are going to deal with the first agenda item first. And for those who are interested solely in that first agenda item, if, certainly people are free to stay for the entire portion of our meeting. But at this, sir, I'll just ask you to take a seat just for a moment. Well, do you want to raise a point of order even before the meeting's called to order?
Go ahead, finish up. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Okay, so I will call the meeting now to order, and as I was saying, there's two items on our agenda. So, sir, if you want to address what you want to say first, you go right ahead, I guess.
Carry on. I'll wait till you finish.
You look like you were in a hurry. No?
I was just going under advisement.
Pardon me?
I was being under advisement. So proceed.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So, as I was stating, if you want to comment formally on anything from tonight's meeting, the town will accept written responses provided directly to the planning department by email or in writing until 12 p.m. on Monday, September the 23rd, 2024. Please note the comments provided on any social media platform are not captured as part of the written submission process. Now, as I was stating, there's two applications on the agenda this evening. After each application is presented tonight, there will be an open floor for any questions or comments on the applications. Questions via social media will be monitored and submitted to be read into the record and answered. To ask a question online, please use the comment field on either YouTube or Facebook when you are viewing the live stream. As this is a public meeting, you are required to provide your name and address when asking a question. Now, before I turn the microphone over to Mr. Phil Ruff, our town planner, I want to make a general statement. I ask that everyone here this evening be respectful of one another and be patient and allow each other time to speak and respond. So we are dealing with matters certain that have a great impact on those here present. What I am requesting is that we keep any comments and any questions centered solely on the merits of the applications and not on the personalities of anybody who may be presenting here tonight. So at this time, I'd like to hand the floor over to Mr. Phil Ruff, town planner, for our first presentation.
Okay. Can I make my
Sir,
point of order?
yes, sir. Yeah. So first of all, just get you in front of the microphone and get your name.
Okay. Here?
Yes, sir.
You hear me? My voice is gone. I don't think
I
it's
don't,
on.
is there might, yeah, it looks like the microphone's on there.
It's on?
Yep, should be.
You hear now?
It's most important that we get your answers recorded. I think everyone can hear you okay.
Okay, so the letter sent out as required by law to the property owners within 150 meters of the marked boundaries was indeed not received by several of the property owners. That's my point of order.
Okay, so can you tell us, first of all, your name?
Okay, I'm Jack Hadley,
Okay.
otherwise known as the parcel that was in here, which I am listed as parcel number 384610.
Okay.
Residing at 34 St. Catharines Avenue.
So this is in relation to the St. Catharines?
Exactly.
Okay, all right. So
Can I continue with my presentation, or does it have to wait?
so
There's
just,
a lot of stuff here, so
Okay.
whenever you feel comfortable, I'm ready to go.
I guess what I want to try to get a sense of is that if you want to address the merits of the application, I'm going to ask if you wait until after the presentation.
No, I
But
want
if
to
there,
address all of you
okay,
in council as
okay.
well.
Okay, so it's just on the process side or on the merits side, I guess. Does that make
On
sense?
the whole package.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying, is because on the merit side,
Which is it, Mike? Process? Process.
okay, and in terms of the process, you're saying certain people didn't receive notification
From
letters?
the point of order, there are people that didn't receive that notice
Okay, all right. And how are you made aware of this?
by personal contact with those people.
So they were aware then?
No, I asked them if they received the
Okay,
letter.
so
They
you-
said no.
Okay. Do you have a number of those people? Do you have any
It
idea? how
doesn't
many?
matter. One or more, it's enough, right? That's what I was told.
Okay,
The process hasn't been completed as per the bylaw regulation.
are those persons present here tonight?
I don't know.
I'm president.
There,
I never received.
You never received one?
there's one.
Okay,
To the council.
okay.
And get one. I never received one to today even. It never came. Did
Okay.
anybody else not get one?
Yeah, there's another person that, I don't know, Mike, is he in here?
Right next to the field at 33 St. Catharines.
Okay, so another one also is Ian Walker.
Okay,
He
so
never received it either.
at least a couple then.
Right on the border of the property, so important.
I think, like you said, sir, at least one is
Is
important.
enough.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't need to go further.
Okay, just take a second, I just want to speak to the planning staff, just to see if we can find out what happened.
I've been there. I have this all presented. If you want to listen to it, then you can go from there. You can ask any questions you like.
This is just on the notification side of
This
things?
it's everything, right from the beginning of the letters that were sent out, from when I received it, my meeting here for 3 hours with town planners, both, and the CAO,
Okay,
which involved about 3 hours of my time,
okay,
and another 2 hours after that regarding another matter with Philip Ruff on the phone for 2 hours, trying to explain all the things that weren't explained in my first meeting of 3 hours.
on the notification side or on the, you know, I mean, because we're trying
I
to.
was included
Yeah,
in my parcel, unaware of me knowing that. And that's why I presented myself here at Town Hall. I had no request to be included with the request that came from the 2 parcels of land bordering on my property. I was put in there by the committee that formed 5 volunteers of your committee, Mayor Ogden and Councillor McDonald.
that's me,
It's you?
yeah,
There you are.
yeah.
So you 7 people sat in the committee and went about your business in relation to me and my property, which sat beside the requests from 2 other parcels of land, which I can name. If you want me to go through this, it would be simpler if I just went through from the beginning. Would that be okay?
Why not? Okay,
Okay. I really would rather have a stand, but I'll do it from this. That's okay. Okay, here, let's go, all right? You good?
well, do you have an idea, I mean, I do have to respect the fact that we have a full room here, sir. I have to understand that if there's an issue with respect to notification, I mean, you're here. If there's other people who's.
That will come. In the body of this, they will come. I will relay the information that I, as a taxpayer, residing at my residence, was included in something that I had no awareness of, didn't want to be a part of, but I was put in there. That should not have happened.
So you're saying you shouldn't have received a notification?
I should not have been placed in that position that I would become a part of that request. It states right there in the letter that you sent out, this amended application has been expanded to include 3 additional parcel numbers, 107, 101, and myself, 384610. I never requested that.
You might not have, sir, no, but the.
Nobody requested that. I lived there by myself. I've been a resident there for 12 years.
No, but I think the idea,
So if you didn't, let me finish. Would I like to do this? Would that be a problem?
it might be, depending on how
Well, it
long.
might be
it's
a
gonna-
problem
yeah,
to you. I don't think
Yeah.
all these people would be a problem.
Yeah. Okay,
Could you just give us an idea of how long it's gonna be?
yeah, that's what I'm trying to get, sir.
That's what
Yeah.
They're delaying it. It's not me. It's not me. Ask them.
your presentation, how long would it be?
I don't know. I've just written this in conjunction with fellow neighbor, Michael Farmer, today.
There
So,
might be a room in the meeting for that, but maybe not at the beginning.
can I get your name?
Susan Spiteri, I live on Autumn Lane. I'm just trying to move things along.
Are you for this meeting or for the next one?
I don't know which is which. We
I
haven't
think
found
you're
out.
for the next one. I have not heard your name.
We haven't found out yet because we
Oh,
haven't had
what-
a chance to talk.
Could you tell her which meeting she's to be in?
Well, I'm not going to, okay, folks, no, okay,
There has been a legal question as to the validity of this meeting. I've asked the chairman to determine whether that meeting has been legally convened, according with the respect of matters that Mr. Hadley spoken. Mr. Chairman, if you're going to proceed with the meeting, I would
so, sir, that's what I'm exactly trying to figure out, is exactly how many people have been affected by any defective notice.
The
And
meeting, sir, the notice is the most important part of any meeting. If the meeting is not legally called, it's void, it does nothing, it can't do anything. And that's where I believe we are.
Do you understand that, Counselor?
I understand exactly what
Do you
you're,
have the legal status to understand what Mike, a former lawyer, has said to you?
I'm a lawyer, sir, too.
So you understand
Yeah.
completely?
Well, I
So can
understand
I
what he's saying.
proceed now?
No. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Do you want me to talk or do you not? Do you want to hear what the whole process of what's involved in this?
It's just that there's two items on this meeting tonight.
I wasn't even aware of that. I was aware that the calling was for, it says here, there will be, if I read it here, they're pursuant to the PEI Planning Act and Section 3 of the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw 45, Council shall hold a public meeting on Tuesday, September 10th, 24 at 7 p.m. in the Southport and Bunbury Room in the Town Hall located at Shakespeare Drive in order to receive comments from the public on proposed amendments, those amendments being related to the Stratford St. Catherine's Road extension and the rezoning of the two parts of the land there. That's what I received. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So
Yeah.
then I can proceed. This is the right meeting. I'm in the right meeting, am I?
You're in the right meeting, sir, but you're not automatically given stand and just to get up and start speaking. Is that what I'm trying to say to you? Okay?
Why can't I?
There's a time and there's a place.
Okay, so when
Yeah.
will be my time?
Well, we're going around in circles here. We're trying to address the issue of standing. We're trying to address the issue of notice. You've explained that there are certain people present, you ma'am, at least, at a minimum, who did not purportedly receive the requisite notice.
Correct.
Okay, that's where we're at, okay? I'm not going any further than that right now, sir.
And where do we go next?
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is, I know you want to speak, it's not the right time.
No, I'll take my turn. Just tell me when.
Excellent. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do, folks. I do want to take a moment, okay? I want to discuss with our CAO and our planning staff. We'll take 2 minutes. I don't want to hold up anybody else for any longer than they need to be. I know everyone here eagerly wants to hear what this is about.
You
and
better address that lady, because she's anxious to carry on.
Well, I doubt she's alone in that sentiment, sir. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to just adjourn very briefly
So
for
you're
2
asking
minutes.
for a delay.
I'm not asking, I'm telling you, we're adjourning for
You're
2
telling me.
minutes.
Fine.
And then we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna
Okay.
see how to proceed.
I'm good.
Come with me.
As long as I get my time to talk.
Thank you, everyone. So certainly I appreciate the comments to date. Certainly, we do take notice absolutely seriously. I do recognize what former Mayor Farmer is saying with respect to the requisite notice and how important that is. I've had a discussion with town staff about it. I just wanted to clarify a few things, and I'll clarify this and put it on the record, is that letters were sent out via Canada Post via our ViewWorks provincial mapping system software in a 500-foot radius. That's a requirement of our bylaw. We cannot ever guarantee that every property or resident owner is going to receive that letter. They're not sent out on a certified or registered mail basis. It's been posted on the property itself. It's been posted by social media. It's been in the town minutes. And all of that considered, I am satisfied that adequate notice has been provided pursuant to our bylaws and pursuant to the requirements of all of our legislation. As such, we are going to proceed with the public meeting here tonight. I do appreciate the point of order, sir. Don't mind you asking, but I am satisfied that notice has been adequately given.
In your opinion?
Mr. Chairman, I object.
Recognize that, sir. I recognize your objection. I appreciate what you're saying.
Did you hear that?
I heard that, yes,
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
Make a point?
I think the important thing here is that we give people a chance to express their.
I've been trying to do this.
No, I'm sorry, sir. In an orderly, according to Robert's Rules of Order, the chair is in charge of the meeting, and it's up to the chair to recognize people that speak and to observe and respect the process. So, with all due respect, I really understand your perspective, but we really need to let people say what they've got to say.
And that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, but there will be a time for that.
When?
But we just need to follow the process and allow the chair to do his job.
Fine.
Okay? Thank you.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Thank you, folks. So we are now going to proceed with the presentation from our planning staff, Mr. Philip Ruff, who's going to address an overview of the application. And for the record, the application that is before us today for consideration at this public meeting is as follows. And it's titled under our legislation, it's RZ003-24, dealing from an application from 14332423 Canada Incorporated, who is the proponent of whom is Cindy Sun and Margaret Bueno, a rezoning request from R1 to R2 at St. Catharines Avenue Extension, encompassing PIDs 289231, 108, 1025, 107, 7270, 101, 9355, and 384, 610. I'll call now upon Mr. Ruff.
Okay, so this request actually has got a two-parter to it. I'll address your concern. I know what your question is. I'll get to it. So the original application came in from the numbered company, the 14332423. I'll refer to it as Cindy. It's easier than punching the numbers. And then,
Could you speak up with your mic?
oh, mic, sorry, there's the mic. Okay, so the application initially came in from the numbered company, 14332423 Canada Inc. And Margaret Bueno, close enough? Okay, sorry, I'll massacre your name. So it was requesting rezone parcels 289231, this one here, and 1081025. From low-density residential, the R1 zone, to the medium-density R2 zone. So the purpose of this zoning change is to facilitate a future residential subdivision of the land. Now, the second component of this amendment, it was expanded to include 3 other parcels. It was a town-initiated amendment, which is permitted under section 3.2.6 of the bylaw, where the town has the right to initiate its own amendment requests. So it was expanded to incorporate 3 additional parcels, those being 1077270, which is the little one up on Georgetown Road. We have 1019355. I think that should be 9255, which is this one right in here. I'll confirm that PID. And the third parcel it was included was 384610, which is the next one over. So those 3 additional parcels were included in the amendment at the town's initiative. So in accordance with section 3.2 of the zoning and development bylaw, council shall hold a public meeting to solicit input from residents on the proposed amendment. So at this meeting, we're only addressing the request to rezone the subject land from R1 to R2. A preliminary plan was provided last year by the applicant, just for information purposes only. No formal application for subdivision or development on the larger of the two parcels. The original two parcels was submitted. So that's part of a separate application process, and that will be done at a future stage and requires council review. When reviewing applications for rezoning, there is a number of considerations council takes into account. So it's the conformance of the zoning request with the town's official plan, the compatibility of the zoning with adjacent neighborhoods, and the suitability of the land for the proposed purposes. So that's just the planning summary of this application.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ruff. So I am now going to call upon Ms. Sun and Ms. Bueno to address those here present in support of their application in order to provide you with an overview of exactly what is being proposed and the nature of the request and why it's being made. So Ms. Sun, Ms. Bueno, I will now call upon you. And I'll ask you to come up to the podium here and speak into the microphone so that we can hear your answers.
Thank you. So good, can you hear me? Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is Cindy Lin. So Sun is actually not my last name. I'm the company representative for the meetings here tonight. So the reason, I'll get straight to the point since we have only a limit of time. The reason why we would like to change the zoning from R1 to R2. So our parcel is actually really just 289231 over here, and then part of the upper area close to the Georgetown Road, you can see highlighted in red. So,
No, please.
oh,
I can't see.
oh, okay.
So the two parcels, this one down here and this one over here.
So I'm wondering, Mr. Ruff, if we could go back to the first map.
The first map, okay.
Yeah.
First map of those.
Yeah.
Okay, so the two in question are 289231 and 1081025.
Yes. So we're only developing the middle area because as I know that Margaret's family at the moment right now are keeping their property as what it is. And the reason why we're changing the zoning, it's because we're trying to bring down the cost of infrastructure by increasing the density and by increasing how many units that we can put in. However, that's not saying that we're putting like huge or many apartment building, because we don't want that happen. Where as a developer, representing the developer himself would like to keep one of the parcel in the area and then eventually build his own house there. So he wanted to keep the community a very nice and decent community where it will be fitting into the neighborhood around the area. Okay. So at this stage, we do not have a detailed preliminary plan yet. However, we're planning to do the step zoning. I'll quickly show a little bit of idea. Step zoning meaning that we will have some single families at the bottom, close to where 289231, where it will be the back of the Strawberry Hill area. So single dwelling families around there. And the parkland area would be roughly about an acre. That would probably start from behind the Georgetown Road, where the upper area, northern side of the St. Catharines, where the 10A1025 PID is putting on the map right now. So that's gonna be a park zone area behind. That'll be a buffer for the church area, yes. And then, so single families down at the bottom, and in the middle area, we're hoping to put some semi-detached in the middle, and then few of the triplexes on top of that, on top of semi-detached. So really, probably the maximum amount of units that we're putting in right now, it's probably going to be less than 20 units. But that means that including the single-family dwellings, semi-detached, and also the triplexes. Yeah.
Triplexes?
Yes. like 3 units together.
Can you explain that?
We don't,
It's
we
called a
townhouse?
3-unit townhouse
Three-unit
complex, so,
townhouse.
3 units side by side,
well, 1 unit's like, so it's,
3 of one side by side.
yes, so a townhouse complex, so a row of, a
Double
row of.
story with a roof.
We
uh,
don't have an exact plan right now, but we're
No,
we're
I'm just-
looking.
That's
yeah.
fine. I'm just, you explain what a
Yeah.
triplex is, so that
So
people
it's a
here can
3-unit
understand what that is.
It's a 3-unit townhouse complex.
3 units, 2 stories with a roof.
Not
maximum
necessarily,
height.
it could be single stories, it could be 2 stories, 3 stories. There's no,
Okay,
a
so the
3-unit
ones in-
townhouse is 3 units, so 3 dwelling units,
Okay,
side by side.
so the ones in Briar Jones development, what are they?
Those are
The
townhouses,
The 3,
that's a townhouse complex.
so that's what she's saying?
Maybe, the design of them has not been developed. The intention is to, they've stated what their
That's a
intention is.
possible.
It's a possible. The design of the buildings has not been made at this time.
Okay.
It's premature.
I thought this meeting wasn't about
Sir,
proposals.
sir, I'll just ask, there'll be, no, not sure, there'll be a time. That's all I'm saying. So, I appreciate the question on what exactly the 3-unit is, but
Do you understand
Yeah.
now, everybody, what a triplex is? Okay.
okay.
But like I said, this is just a rough concept at the moment. We will need to develop the plan in accordance with the zoning bylaw regulations for sure. And of course, it's not going to be aimed for rentals. We're aiming for the young professional families, the middle-class people. We wanted, like I said, the developer himself will keep a lot and then build his own house there. So he really wants to keep the area a really nice neighborhood. Yeah, and then we're also working on developing a restricted covenants right now, but like I said, this is just a concept at the moment. But the reason why I'm here to do a presentation today, we're not supposed to present anything really, because this is just a concept. It's because we don't want to scare you guys off. Like, I know that people might wondering about, oh, are they building apartments or is it gonna be rentals? No, we're not going to build any rental apartments. Yeah, so basically that's the plan for now.
Okay, so, well, thank you. So at this point in time with the presentation, what I will now turn it over, 2 questions. So here's what we're going to do is that we'll deal with those in attendance first, okay? And then we will move to any online questions that we might have, and we'll check with our town staff about that. So what I'll just simply ask folks is that if you do have a question, just come to the microphone, just one at a time, okay? We'll try to keep an orderly queue as best we can. And certainly, questions can be directed both towards the applicants, but also to planning staff. And we'll certainly do our best to answer them as best we can at this point in time. If we can't address your question, certainly we will do everything we possibly can to get that information and provide it to you either tonight or at a later date. And just before you, and I'll say this to everybody, but I'll just ask you, just so we understand who everybody is, I'll just ask you to state your name, ma'am, and before you ask your question.
Sherry Hoy, I was just wondering who the contractor is.
We don't have a contractor yet.
What you said he's gonna buy a parcel of land and live there?
Well, I mean, the owner of the land, the developer, sorry, developer.
developer.
Yes, developer.
Thank you.
What's
And I
that?
didn't get the letter, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Good evening. I'm Josie Natter. I live on Martindale Crescent. And I don't understand how you can guarantee that the homes are not going to be rentals. I own rentals in provinces, and no one can guarantee that they're not rentals. I bought a home, and I so decided to rent it. Briars off of Georgetown Road is a mess, especially in the winter. 4 to 5 cars off the driveways, completely congested. Okay. If you're proposing to build duplexes, they will turn into rentals. There's not enough room, space, apartments for university students, international students, graduate students who have vehicles. And there's 4 or 5 that end up moving into homes to keep their costs down into these duplexes. So when you say that they're not going to be rentals, you cannot make that statement because I own a house, I own a couple of houses outside of Prince Edward Island, and no one can tell me what to do in my home. So making that statement that they're not going to be rentals, you can't, because once you sell to an individual, you lose control of what happens in that house or in that duplex. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the response.
Yes, sir, I think that's fine. I do recognize the gentleman behind you, but
I'll just be 1 second. Hi, my name's Steve Collette. Lived in Stratford for about 10 years. We live in Strawberry Lane. We own several businesses in Stratford as well as some commercial real estate. I've been in business a long time, and I firmly believe that if you can't explain something in 30 seconds, it doesn't exist. This is literally in my backyard. When you purchased this, it was R1, correct? So you purchased it with knowing that it was zoned as R1. On a subjective personal standpoint, and I can see some, I'm not going to speak on behalf of my neighbors, but whenever we moved in and built our dream home with a lot behind us, where I personally met Jack to say that, are you staying here, are you selling this? That's why we built it. And I'm kind of baffled why the planning committee would even consider this. Because if I drove by that development that we're talking about right now, there's 12 cars on the road on the way here. We drive to our gym at 6 a.m. There was 2 cop cars that couldn't even get in the development. This here has to be crystal clear. I think we can all agree, anyone who lives here, that we bought this knowing that this was going to be single home dwellings. With all due respect, you're throwing stuff out that, we want to do this or we might do this. That's not acceptable. Thanks.
thank you, sir. Pardon me?
Can I use the podium? I want to address you and the people unnecessarily. If you sit.
I personally don't have an issue with that, sir. I mean, I do see you have some paperwork there, if that's easier for you. Sure, yeah. As long as, ladies, I'm just wondering if you could just step aside for a moment. Yeah, if that's okay. I think that's fine. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's like pulling teeth here. Okay, my name is Jack Hadley, and I reside at 34 St. Catharines Avenue. This is the property that I have right here. All this lines that are covered within this boundary of the zoning, which they're requesting to change from mine, which is R1. This is R1. This is R1. These 2 parcels now are R1 and have been for the eternity of Stratford. Just so you know where I'm at.
Sorry, folks, we have to use the microphones. This is live streamed and recorded, so everyone must stay at a microphone.
You want me to
for us
talk
hear.
louder?
I want you to use the microphone, please, Doris, thank you.
Mr. Hadley, if you could just, just what you just said, if you could just repeat it, just so we have it recorded.
Here? Sure.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Okay, so my parcel number is 384610, showing there. I would like to take this opportunity to explain some details and issues revolving around the request for rezoning from R1 to R2. All of this in the red is R1. That is the request by the 2 parcels that you just heard from. Want to request that change from R1 to R2. Not me, them. The town of Stratford was started just in the briefing of what it began as 30 years ago, and actually Mike Farmer was sitting right here, was the first mayor of Stratford. He also has a property which sits down right here on the border of this zoning. Okay, so you heard that? Is that okay? Am I
We'll let it go.
This is, if you give me a mic, I can go there, but if you don't, okay. All right, so Michael Farmer kick-started, actually, the whole development of the town of Stratford. I don't know if you're all aware of that, but he did. And he guided it through its early stages, right from the beginning. And he's sitting here tonight, 30 years later, still involved with Stratford, still living within Stratford. Okay, so I would think we owe Michael a debt of gratitude for his efforts through the years. He deserves that. So we are now in Stratford in a totally different environment in the present day town. And we all know that. Much has changed since those early days. No question. The one thing that should never change is that the town council and its members should never lose sight of the fact that they are there to serve the interests of its citizens. Everybody agree? I and others are now starting to believe that this is not the case. Many external interests and persons are at play in deciding how the town goes forward. Probably not existing when Mike was mayor, back 30 years ago. That brings me to the reason why I and all you other citizens that are in attendance here tonight, it all started with a letter which I received in the mail on August 29th. That's this one. You're familiar with it because you were all supposed to have received it. Some didn't. That indicated the request for a zoning change from parcel 289231, see it there, owned by Canada Corporation number 143322423. Listed address as 957 Route 17, Lower Montague. And parcel number 1081025. Shown there, owned by Margaret Bono, listed address as 17 Georgetown Road, Stratford. You just heard from them. So just put it in context. Now, you can imagine the shock that I felt on reading that my property parcel, this one, 384610, bordering on the subject parcels, was to be included in this rezoning request. That was a shocker. I had never requested or made any indications that I would be interested in this change. None. I bought the property actually 12 years ago from Mike and Susan Farmer, who had owned it for the previous 38 years. That's 50 years of that property, which is this. This is the house. This is the grounds. Okay. So the property, when I bought it, and it always has been in an R1 zone, as were the bordering subject properties. Those two are also. All that in red is R1 zone, have been since the beginning. So fast forward to the meeting held by the Planning Department and Heritage Committee, which consisted of 5 volunteer members. I won't name them, doesn't matter. Plus Mayor Steve Ogden, standing there, and Councillor McDonald, who he's registered right there. They decided amongst themselves to amend the request for rezoning to include my property on their own. Okay? Not one of the 7 sitting on that committee ever reached out to me for my opinion, my concerns, or my input, either by phone, email, letter, or a knock on my door. Not one of them. 0. I thought that was lacking, and I should have been dealt with better. What was the reason? I don't know. Then we arrive at all the other happenings, and I'll continue because it's important. First, the letter sent out as required by law to the property owners within 150 meters of the marked boundaries was not received by several property owners. That's been discussed and been related. I informed the town in person, I came here, probably for the first time other than voting, On September the 3rd of this, I notified them of this omission. Their reply, and this is the truth, was that it wasn't their problem, that the letters were sent out, and that I should contact Canada Post to see why the letters weren't delivered to those individuals. Me, I had to do that, really. Next, I asked who my counselor was, not knowing who he was. Never had contact with anybody related to the council. And they said they didn't know who, as I was in between districts. That was their reply. That's what they said. Next, the letter that was sent out did not include my information about the bylaw applications of Zone R1 and R2 as spelled out in the town bylaw number 45. So anyone receiving the letter possibly had no knowledge of what criteria was involved in the proposed change from R1 to R2. How many of you, before you got my edition of the letters, knew what was involved in R1 and R2 or the difference? A handful. A handful. That's it. Okay, so they could make, so the idea was to make them, excuse me, make them informed so that they could make an informed analysis. They had to get the information. That should have been done by the town, not me, not fellow citizens, them. And they didn't do that. Most of the property owners now are in possession. My voice is taxed after a week of discussion here. Most of the property owners now have a 6-page copy, which is this, which you received, of the bylaw sections related to R1 and R2 zoning. All this is the information, in my estimation, that should have been provided when this letter was sent out, so the people had the knowledge of what was included in this proposal for a request change from one to the other.
Why wasn't it?
Okay, we'll get there. This one here was prepared and hand-delivered by concerned citizens, not by mail or Canada Post, which they screwed up on the bidding. So there you go. Not the town. They didn't do that. I took it on my initiative to think that the people that were involved in this should have the information to make their own analysis, discuss their concerns, voice their opinions. Okay, an almost unanimous number of property owners that are here tonight, the ones I've met as I walk the streets, have concerns that need to be addressed by the town. Some of the concerns that I've heard as I walked around and knocked on doors: type of development. This is in the R2, if they were to change to R2. Type of development, size and number of and types of housing, blending existing subdivisions, which means the ones that are surrounding there, which are down here, Strawberry Lane, St. Catharines, Pine Hill, and over here, Humphrey Drive. So 4 others. So, size, number, and type of blending existing and subdivisions with any new development. So the idea behind that was that the people are saying you're proposing something which we don't know what it is, to be included in 2 already existing or 3 existing subdivisions. The newest one being Strawberry Lane. The other one, St. Catharines Avenue. Then Humphrey Avenue. Those are the ones that are involved, and Pine Hill, shouldn't forget that, Pine Hill as well, which have been there as developments beginning earlier in years back, but they are still there, and they're still single-family developments, for the most part. Strawberry Lane has included some duplexes, side by side, if you wish, but very few. Most of them are glorious houses, beautiful. People spent money. They came there. They liked the area. They built their homes. They're happy there. They built a nice, structured family living area on their own. It's their money. It wasn't the town's money. It was their money. They invested there. And they want to keep it that way. Same with the others, which are somewhat lesser, but still important homes for all those people on St. Catharines Avenue, Pine Hill, Humphrey. Everybody that I met were involved with that idea that that's the way it should be. Shouldn't change from that. Okay, so then the structures that are possible, only possible, but they are possible in accordance with bylaws is what was in this letter. In the R2 zone versus the R1. That was the other main concern. Potential Briar-Jones similarities. Most people here are familiar with Briar-Jones, which I don't know if we can, yes, we can see. It's right here. This parcel of land was bought from an old farmstead. They tore it down, and they decided to build what they have in place there, which are triplexes, duplexes, 3 side by side, 2 side by side. They asked council to get approval for 14. They went ahead and built 20. Unbeknown to the council, apparently, this I can't verify, but some people will have verification of that they proceeded with building the extra 6 units on their own, and then went to council after they had built it. Not right. Okay, so that was the existence and the feedback on that Briar-Jones development alone. When people go by there, it's not hard to imagine what it is. Mike took a tour on Sunday, went over there, counted the number of residences. There's 20. He counted the cars which were just sitting outside or on the street, not counting the garages, because they all have garages. He counted 26 cars. So if you add 20 that are in the garage, that's 46 cars in that complex with one road going in, no exit, blocking the sides of the roads, hardly can get through there. Okay, so the increase in traffic just alone, if they're proposing another subdivision, you know how much traffic there is. And there's even more traffic when you get into divisions like Briar-Jones, because they had multiple people living there. I just heard also in context with Briar-Jones that now, apparently, there's not enough people in there. There's tons of people in there, some 2, 3 families living in one thing. They've now, with the triplexes, the 2 of them, which have basements, apparently, and that needs verification, but good source, apparently, they have applied to have apartment status for their basements, to add even more people in their units. That's the reality. Okay. So the cars have been dealt with, they're there. So what happens in a fire or an emergency access? You can't get in there with all those cars. It's almost impossible. You got to drive in, you'd never be able to back out. It wouldn't work. Thank God that we don't have any problems as yet, but it can be a big problem, and we'll lose people because of that. Badly planned. The other issue amongst a lot of people is privacy. I'm sitting here. I have 437 feet bordering on that proposed redevelopment of those parcels. 437 feet. Potential of 5 lots. If you divide that into duplexes, that's 10 residences. If you go to triplexes, that's 15. All backing on my property. The other is the devaluation of existing properties. People in Strawberry Lane have high-end units. They've worked for them, they've built them, they spent their money owning that particular spot in that development. They don't need a system like Briar Jones to come in there and potentially build in here, and in here, and in here. They don't need that. It's not what that's required there. This is R1 zoning. It should remain that. There should never be a change to R2. There's no necessity to do that, other than to maximize the profits for a developer to come in to sell more units. That's it. And the other faction is the town itself. They have funding available from federal government under certain criteria. If you maximize intensity properties in a parcel of land, you will be eligible for grants and subsidies from the federal government. That's on the table. If you don't do that, you don't get the money. Understand? That's what it was. The other is green space allowance. I've seen two proposals, previous housing proposals, for those two parcels of land. One in 2015, which was Margaret Bono, actually the estate of her mother, also Margaret. And they made a proposal that involved I think there was 29 lots in this area here. It passed before council and it wasn't approved. And the money to develop that was probably not in the confines of what they had estimated as a family of three, two brothers, McIntyres, and one sister, Margaret Bono, who still lives there. So as that went down, then the process to what do you do with that property? So they divided, they inherited parcel 108, 1025 amongst the three. Margaret Bono kept this. The other brother got this. And the second brother got the one at Georgetown Road. That's how they divided it up. Shortly after they did that, the first property on Georgetown Road was sold, and it was resold. It's been sold 3 times. Then came the other McIntyre son, and he sold this property. Okay? He sold that to a local resident. And he changed his mind after he bought it. So he in turn sold it again. That is when the corporation, under a number, and it's important to know, just hold on here, I'll get you that because it does add into the okay, just bear with me here. 127-86761 Canada Incorporated. That's the McIntyre, not the McIntyre, well, McIntyre property, then sold again, and then sold to that corporate company. The address for that corporate company when they bought it, 36 Emily Drive, Stratford. Okay? Fast forward, that company then in turn transferred that property to the other number company which is involved in this proposal, which is 143-32423 Canada Incorporated, of which there are directors, and they offer their address as, it is 957 Route 17, Lower Montague. No longer Emily Crescent in Stratford. Same people, Benson and another one. Actually 4 now. Benson in particular is one of the directors. Just a briefing on him. He has a accumulated properties under different corporation, Canada Corporation numbers, from Montague all the way to Vancouver, and in between, Toronto, Montreal, all with him as a part of a director in those companies. Imagine. Okay, so that gives you an idea of where that is. The other situation is the green space allowance. Those proposals, oh yes, I should point this out, that in 2021, the second proposal, not forgetting it, the second proposal that came from that first numbered company was presented to council, 2021. It didn't go anywhere either, under the zoning of R1. Still remaining R1. So it was turned down. So then the transfer to the next number came. So then the latest transfer, well, I must say they came to council with a different plan. We haven't seen the third plan. We don't know what it is. But the initial plan from them, the first numbered company, was within zone R1. So whatever went on with them in discussions of what they could build, how much they could maximize, that was never indicated. We don't know. But something spurred them to request the R2 zone, which gave them greater potential for greater profits, for greater return on investment, which is what corporations are all about. Nothing against that. It's all legal. It's all done many places. But that's what occurred here. Okay, so then other areas. That was green space, park areas. Those proposed ones, plans that came in, the latest ones, let's take the latest one. It didn't fly with the committees or the planning because it didn't incorporate the green areas and the park areas in a correct manner so that they'd be accessible to those residents of that area. That was what I was told. They didn't meet all the requirements. So that's why that went back to them for a redraw. Okay. Then we come to, this is one of my favorites, but it's the increased number, and these are all concerns that I heard from everybody here in relation to this proposal, was the increase of the number of dogs and feces, because dogs do that. I've owned dogs for 30 years. They don't know where the property line is. They go anywhere. I was telling Mike a funny story, but I said, here, all this, if you think 15 at the maximum, not saying it would be, 15 doors, okay? They have a chunk of land about the size of these two tables on their back door. So Rover's inside and he needs to go out. So they open the door and they let Rover out. So Rover looks and sees this little patch of land. He says, oh my God, maybe not. Then he looks across here and sees that wide open manicured lawn with beautiful trees and shrubs. Oh my God, he's in heaven. So away goes Rover, right over to there. He sniffs, he walks around, he's just enjoying himself. He pees, he poops, then he runs back to his owner in this house. The owner opens the door, lets Rover in, he says, good boy, Rover. Closes the door, end of story. Does that twice a day, 7 days a week, forever. And my property here, potentially, can have 15 of those doors opening with 15 dogs or more going across there doing their business. So when I go out with my tractor, every week, I cut my own grass, takes me 5 hours. I get on my ride mower. I don't know if you've ever done it, but when you drive a ride mower and it goes over poop, it gets on the wheels and the undercarriage and it smells. So I have to go around my whole property for 5 hours with that smell. Do I want that? No. I've been very fortunate. The neighbors have dogs. They pick up after their dogs. There's no guarantee that that would be done with 15 new houses there. No guarantee. Okay, then comes the increased number of people. If you put multiplexes, you have more people per square foot, you have more people. Nothing wrong with more people. So, these are some of the concerns, and the people in attendance tonight, really, they should be given the opportunity to express these, just like me. It's democracy. We get the chance to come here and speak. Not a lot of countries have that right, but we do, and we should honor it, and we should be respectful of what we have and what we can have. No disagreement if there's a potential to do more housing on a decent form in the zoning of R1, not necessary to change. R1 would accommodate all the residences of any size that you require to make a comfortable living environment like they have in Strawberry Lane, St. Catharines, Pine Hill. No reason for R2, none. So after our discussion and after your input, and because of the illegal irregularities around the notices, the town can technically bring back the request for a duly called and constituted public meeting according to law. That's doable. So this is a potentially huge project, huge, involving many households, and it should not be rushed into, no need to, and or approved until after all the concerns have been addressed. That's democracy. That's the way it should form. They should be respectful of that, meaning the council and the town of Stratford. So that's it. Oh, one more new revelation. This is important before I stop. This is it. One more new revelation that was just presented today from a fellow citizen. The owners of the Briar Jones development, this monstrosity here, the owners of that development are Troy Bradley and Robert McNally. McNally being the contractor, the builder that built those. The other was the investment money, the two of them. So I just learned that they have recently purchased the former Mary Rice property existing east of the noted parcels, requesting the zoning change. So this property here, all this is a potential street coming from Georgetown Road. The conditionals on this proposal that they have now is that they put this street through here, all the way up to the water tower, which is so much. Here's the water tower. So they want to do this, and this is St. Catharines Street. So they want to propose now to extend St. Catharines Street to cover this area. So, sorry, it's here. This one here, through to here, and then, as you can see, up to here. In between the two, where they join this St. Catharines, this would be St. Catharines. This would be potential Briar Jones development. Exactly the same, perhaps.
Sir, we just changed
Jack?
that to show you.
I just showed, so
Just so you,
Go through here, so here.
yeah.
Okay, here's St. Catharines Road. They want to extend this through, for what reason? Not sure. Through here, through these parcels here. This is owned by the town. This is where the water tower, where your water comes from, they're right here. So now they have an easement that comes through to allow them to get to the water tower. So they can get to the water tower. They don't need the street, but it's there in provision if they want to. So these people, the property was Mary Rice, who lived in Stratford for years. She sold it. So now these developers of Briar Jones come here, and the council council says you gotta put this street in, so we'll connect it to this street, because we're gonna extend this street through here so we can join the two together. Make even more traffic flow direct through all here, including if this is done as a Briar Jones, all those cars that I told you before, 26 plus. And I don't know how many could fit in there, but there's a lot. So all that traffic flow, which was not there before, could be potentially there. Not what we want there. So I will say that it should be noted that that proposed extension of St. Catharines Avenue would be beneficial only for that future development here. We don't need the extension on St. Catharines Avenue. I live at the end of it. There's no reason to extend it, really. So, that's it. It's enough. So, thank you for your time.
Yes, so I just want to say.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, sir, and I think, if I might, I just want to really extend my appreciation to you for reaching out to your fellow residents, your fellow citizens, and gathering the material that you did and presenting it. Certainly, I think it's helpful to everybody here to understand your position, I think, as well as fair enough to say some of the neighbors' position as well. Bearing in mind, of course, that I just want to reiterate, and I think it's all very important at this point in time to reiterate that this is a public meeting to solicit exactly this type of information and exactly these types of sentiments and opinions. These are all things that the planning staff and committee are going to incorporate when it considers this on its merits, absolutely. There will also be, as I'll indicate later, a time to submit written submissions. I fully expect to receive some. There's no doubt we've received some letters already in advance. So all of that in mind is that I think it's absolutely important for people to understand that absolutely no decisions have been made yet. That's why we're here, to hear from you, to solicit your feedback. And so with that in mind, that's what we are doing here today. So I do appreciate your comments, and I just wanted to be absolutely certain that no decisions have been made here, okay? With that in mind, is there anybody else who would like to provide? You, sir? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Serge Bernard. I'm former chief surveyor for the Crown. I'm a land surveyor by trade. I'm now a consultant. Dale knows me well, and we've had great discussions over the years. I feel sorry for our neighbor, Margaret. She's a dear friend. She never should have been subjected to this. In a sense, for example, we did Foxwoods. We flew in a conservation design engineer from Brunswick, Maine. We went through the entire process, a detailed consultative process to go through for rezoning, for the proposed development and that sort of thing. We never subjected to Mr. McDonald through that process. There was a concrete plan in place. We had experts, we had CBCL, we had, you know, the Mr. Arend, I was trying to remember his name. He was up here. We flew him up here because we believed in the design, we believed in our town. And we wanted to leave a positive legacy for Mr. McDonald's property. And it turned out we had public input. We gave folks a blank sheet of paper and say, what would you like to see on your property? And we went through that process, and we developed something that everybody was proud of, you know? And so much so, Kevin Reynolds had my development on his, you know, wall for many years. I don't know who's in his office these days, but I don't know if it's still there. I don't visit his office too often, but in any event, I think we were really premature. And being in public office, I've seen myself in situations where you call public meetings unprepared. And it's very unfortunate because people try to, gather as much information to defend themselves in a sense, or to get more information, and they fill in the blanks, and sometimes they go in the wrong directions. I also feel sorry for Mr. Robert McNally, because you lobbed some very disparaging remarks in that he had approved, or something that he was perhaps had a goal for 14 units and then went for 20.
Okay, so folks, okay, no, folks,
It wasn't verified, but that was.
I'm,
Okay, well, I can verify
Okay.
that for you.
Mr. Bernard.
Okay, so.
No,
I'm
just a minute.
No, I'm going to call you both to order, okay, for a moment, all right? I appreciate,
Okay,
I
sorry, I'll
appreciate
let you
what
speak.
you're saying, I do, okay? But as I stated at the outset, we're going to keep things from devolving into personality contests here.
Yeah.
I understand your concern. I understand the opprobrium you feel about what might have been said about another individual.
It was incorrect.
And certainly, I appreciate your attempt to correct the record, but I am going to just stop you there. I know where you're going, and I understand what you're doing. It's recognized, but I'm just going to stop it there, okay?
Okay,
So
no.
everything else, Mr. Bernard, everything else you said, totally fine. It's certainly appreciated. We absolutely appreciate your perspective on the historical side of things as well as your expertise. I invite you to keep going down those roads.
Okay, well, I'll just conclude my remarks because I should redress it for the public's best interest that Mr. McNally did obtain approval for 20, and he did build 20 units there. Now, there is a parking situation on Briar Jones. That was certainly, it'd be no different than when you design a road for people that go 60 miles an hour and then they go 80 miles an hour. As we all know, the town of Stratford doesn't own its streets. They're conveyed to the province. And then it becomes a matter of enforcement in terms of how do you address parking, right? Well, lately out in Victoria, they put in a whole bunch of no parking signs. And of course, the whole community went in uproar and that sort of thing. I mean, we shouldn't blame people's perhaps irresponsibility or causing an inadvertent safety issue on a public street. If it's an enforcement problem, well then it should be addressed with no parking signs, right? That, all we need to do is address it. It's not a design flaw. It's not a subdivision flaw. It's not a vision flaw. We go around as developers trying to, develop property as best we can in the most responsible manner possible. We can't stop speeders from speeding. We just try to make sure that the road is safe. So really, we shouldn't throw out the baby with the bathwater and all of that stuff. So I'll conclude my comments by saying that, no, Rob McNally got exactly what was approved by the town of Stratford. No more, no less. It was designed as an enclave. I was part of that process when it was considered by the town. And I have no vested interest. I'm just a land surveyor. Okay, yes, no, okay, I'll finish it. But again, okay, so I'll make you, okay, so I've made my points, I think I'm clear.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think you are, and it's certainly recognized. It really is, sir. Yeah,
I've said it. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
We're premature.
And that's recognized. I think I can, yeah.
Hi, my name is David Issa. It's 30 St. Catharines Avenue. Would you mind going to the previous screen, please?
That one?
Yes. So my plot is 1019255. I wasn't, just like Jack, I wasn't given any notice that my property was going to be rezoned. I'd like to ask why. And why is it being included in the rezoning proposal?
So just so I can clarify, you didn't receive a letter?
I received a letter,
Okay,
but
that's all.
I wasn't notified that that was
Right.
going to be happening.
Okay,
That was going to be happening.
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah. I'll
And
let,
I'd like to know why.
yeah, I'll let Mr. McKeegan and Mr. Ruff elaborate, but the broader area that we're discussing, essentially, The areas to the west of the red bordered area is already R2 zoning. There's been a request to amend certain portions of our zoning map to R2 from the proponents. You two gentlemen have zoning as R1 currently. The concern of planning staff was that what that would potentially mean is that we have essentially an R1 desert in an R2 zone. To harmonize the zones, which were R2 at the inception of the town of Stratford, the town of its own motion brought notice forward that we were going to amend your plots to R2. I'll let Mr. Ruff and Mr. McKeegan elaborate if I've somehow been incorrect on that. But I see him shaking his head incorrect, but I'm pretty sure I am correct. But all the same, I think Mr. Ruff can show you here on the zoning map.
So it was a decision to pretty much eliminate what is called a spot zone or an island zone. So effectively, the request was to rezone the two larger parcels, so the two in here. And then everything highlighted in yellow is actually yellow, which is now one zone. So in order for the town to keep better track of zone boundaries and to avoid individual spot zones, it was expanded to incorporate the 3 additional parcels around. So all this whole neighborhood would have the same zoning.
Well, my plot is in the subdivision of St. Catherine's Avenue. It's not, I don't understand what you mean by the new subzone or whatever that is. Why is my plot, which is on St. Catherine's, included in that? Why should that be in there?
So the initial request came in for these 2 lots in here. In order to pretty much keep track of zoning boundaries.
Can you explain that? That's all.
Yeah, the boundaries of zones. So there are established boundaries for zones. So currently on this map, everything in yellow is an L1 zone.
What's dark beige, what zone?
So this is L1, this is R2 around here, this is a commercial zone.
Your pointer doesn't show up there.
Oh,
Point your finger at it.
everything in beige is R2, if
So-
that helps. Yeah.
All of this is R2 around. Green is commercial. And then this is an institutional zone, that's where the church is. They're in a different zone. So the initial request was to get this bulk R1 from yellow, easiest way to describe it, from yellow to orange. In order for the town to keep track of the boundaries of the zones,
Can you explain that? I'm confused as what you mean by that.
keep track of the boundaries of
Keep
zones.
track of the boundary zones. What does that mean?
The boundary of the zone. So this would be the boundary of the zone. So this property here, this property's got this is in a separate zone. This is that'd be an open space zone. So on
So
paper.
why is there a difference? Can I speak? Or?
Well, sir, he's trying to answer your question. You keep jumping over him. Just give him a chance. Well, if you give him a chance. If you,
Well, I just want to point out to what,
no,
in the case of what is that boundary there? Why is that considered a changeable boundary area? Which throws us into the mix.
Okay. So the request came in, changed these ones. The reason why we included the other 3 parcels in here was to avoid having a spot zone. So a spot zoning is a different land use zone within a larger neighborhood. See, so this is actually, so if this switched to orange, which is the R2, we would have had 3 yellow zones in the middle. And the problem that comes down to trying to deal with, trying to work out which properties are in which zones, it's not the easiest to tell, especially on paper maps and computer maps like this. So the changing of the zoning is not going to impact current development. The uses within the R1 zone are permitted within the R2 zone. Sorry, I got to go with the mic when you came in. So the inclusion of the 3 additional properties does not change the development potential, the current development on those 3 additional parcels. The current uses are still permitted. It's not making them unlawful uses.
But in the letter that I delivered, which described the R1 and R2 zoning.
Yes.
There is a big difference between R1 and R2 in relation to the unit structure of those houses within R2 is much greater. 40%, I think, is maximum of duplexes and secondary builds in R1.
And
But
sir-
in the maximization, if you went to the furthest point in R2,
Sir?
you told me yourself that it could involve 100% saturation.
Sir, I'm going to cut you off. You're out of order. Okay, we've heard you. All right, there's a lady at the microphone who's very patiently waiting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I didn't say
all right.
Bernadette McDonald, Strawberry Lane. This is just a point of clarification. You said something to the effect that the yellow area, you wanted it to be all one zone, so there wouldn't be issues with monitoring different zones,
Yes, yeah.
R2 or R1. That's what I took from what you said. But I guess what I'm trying to understand is, you have different zones in the green versus the beige. So help me understand what the big deal is to have some R1 retained within that yellow zone there. Because it just seems administrative kind of rationale, and it doesn't make sense to me, because you already have some different colored zones within that map. So if you could clarify it for me, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah. You guys want to take it?
I'm trying to get to a microphone here, I guess, the best I can. Can you hear me? Okay. So I guess what's happening here is that we're trying to get consistency in our zones, and looking at what's there now in the R1, in the color of R1, and in the color of R2, which appears to be brown there to me, but anyway. In trying to change the R1 to an R2, and if that were to happen, then you're left with 2 or 3 zones or 2 or 3 lots with a different zone inside of a zone that has a major coverage, being the R2. So the reasoning and rationale at that time was to see if we can bring it all together under one zone, under the proposed rezoning. And the proposed rezoning is very key to understand here. All we're doing is saying, if we're going to go from an R1 to an R2, then it would be prudent to try to clean up the 3 additional lots to be all the same zone. Now, rightly or wrongly, that was the approach we took. Again, it's under our proposal. It's not definitive. There's no decisions made. And all this is coming down to a public meeting tonight in conjunction with letters that were sent out, in conjunction with newspaper ads, and things like that, all the tools that are in the bylaw that were required to administer. So that's the reasoning and rationale for it. Rightly or wrongly, it was an approach that planning board and council took going forward to enable this public meeting to hear your concerns and anything you had to respond to. So we're following the process, and it's important to have these public meetings to hear your concerns. It's very important. We care about what you have to say. So in fairness to everybody, this is not a slight against your property or anything else. It's a process that we're following, that's required, and that's what we're doing. So, and there's still more process to come after this meeting this evening. A lot more discussion has to be had. A lot more information will be gathered as well. So in doing that and going to the next level, the next stage, we will make sure that planning board is fully armed with the information they need to go forward to do their analysis from that perspective, and then bring what they want to bring forward to council as a recommendation, whereby council will review everything as well and make a final decision. So that's probably the best I can respond to that.
What would happen if you refuse to change those?
Sir, if you have a question, I no problem with the question, but I'll just ask you to approach the microphone, or Mr. Mayor is going to bring that over to you. It's important that we get your question forward.
What would happen if you refused to grant the Chinese corporation and Margaret status R2? What would happen to the other 3 properties?
Well, I would just say that I imagine if council doesn't see its way forward on rezoning under the proposal, I can't see council splitting its decision-making between some of the parcels and others. I would expect, sir, that, and again, I'm not prejudging anything, but my expectation would be the merits on one parcel would be the same as the other to a certain extent, bearing in mind that we are still in receipt of your comments here tonight, as well as I expect some written submissions on those points. Yeah. Mr. Mayor?
I'd just like to say a couple of words, just of clarification, and I really appreciate everyone coming out tonight. I really think this makes our town better, the engagement of citizens in what's going on in the town and in the affairs, and you took time out of your busy days and came here tonight, and I really appreciate that. There's a couple of points that I guess are really need clarification. And one is that under the Planning Act, there are about, I believe, 14 criteria that allow council to refuse a rezoning request or a change. And in that 14 criteria, one of the criteria is residents' input. But that input has to have evidence and it has to be shown that it's not following, the rezoning request is not in compliance with our official plan, because we're legally obligated to follow our official plan. And I don't know if people have had a chance to look at the official plan, but it has been amended over the years and it's evolved and it's got much more density now than it had previously. So it's really incumbent upon us, I guess, to really look at those 14 criteria and look at what in this development is in contravention or is against those 14 criteria. Because we do have experience in other rezoning requests have been refused by council and they've subsequently been overturned by IRAC. So we really need to have solid foundation if this proposal is not approved. If we do go to IRAC, it costs the town, you the taxpayer, one of the rezonings costs over $50,000 in legal fees alone, and that doesn't include the staff time. So it's really important that we have evidence and really good reasons that are in compliance with our official plan and our zoning and development bylaw in order to deal with this. So again, I want to thank you for coming out. I really think it's important to hear your views, and but if you have specific things that are in contravention of what, or where this is contrary, I know that it is something that's unknown. There's a uncertainty about it, and we don't have a concept plan, and that's one of the difficulties, because you know, without a concept plan, you're dealing with the worst possible scenario, and you know, it depends on staff and council to really take the time to look at this proposal and to see what the implications are for the whole town. And we have to balance the need to keep existing zones as they are with the need to find more places for people and make more supply, more housing supply. So that's really what we're dealing with. And we do sit at the planning board, and we do look at these things in detail and get a lot of input from professional planners and from other people. And I know that I apologize on behalf of the town for not reaching out to the landowners affected, because I think that should be part of the process. But it is something that you know, we have a public meeting here tonight. We'll get input from our solicitor in terms of whether or not it is a legal meeting. If it's not, then we'll have to reconvene. But however, we're all here tonight, and we really want to hear what your views are on this proposal. So again, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You want to hear about it?
It's been a while since I've been in front of this hall, and I have a few comments, and the comments were triggered by the town talk. Got it the other day, and you know, we started that 29 years ago. But this Town Talk front page really grabbed me. And it said, and the sign says, vote for us. And I thought, my heavens, with all the election fever going on in the United States, the mayor and council are starting their campaign 2 years early. And then I looked down and I said, it says, do you enjoy all the natural beauty in Stratford? We all take that for granted. The question is, and the second one is, are you proud of our community? I think that most of us do. You know, I live in Strawberry Lane. Lived there. I've lived in that area for 50 years. And I'd like to ask the residents of Strawberry Lane, are you proud of your community? Are you? Yes? Or no?
As it is now.
Yes. How about you people living on Pine Hill Drive?
Yep.
Yeah? What about Jenkins Avenue? What about Humphrey Drive? Pine Hill Drive? And what do you residents think of Broward Jones Lane?
It's probably one of
Are you
the worst
proud of
mistakes
that?
that the town council has made.
Huh?
They blew it on that one.
Well, I see a problem, and I don't know whether the town has the power to deal with that. But when a proposal, contractor comes together with a proposal, what do you think is the reason for that? Now, I think the reason for the proposal on Strawberry Lane by Jason Aspen and Gordon McCarthy, their idea was to create something of beauty. You know, those two fellas put in an awful lot of money into creating, I think it's the most beautiful subdivision in the province. And you know, I'm sure that Jason and Gordon, you know, made some money on it. But I think what they created, they had a vision of what a great subdivision was. And when they started to work on that, and they invited people to come in and build houses, they said, fellas, you want to build a house in here, you're going to build a good one. You know, so everybody, and when I was designing our house, I went to Gordon with the plans, and Gordon said, well, I didn't like that very much, and you know, he said, come back and look at it again. And he said, finally I got what Gordon called curb appeal. It's nice. It fitted in with the area. It fitted in with the next door. So, and Gordon, and you know, that house subdivision, no vinyl siding, you know, he had controlled what was in there, and it was fulfilling his dream. Now, when proponents come to the town and they want to build a proposal in R1 or R2 or whatever, they come in and they give a plan to the town. And the town doesn't ask them, I don't believe, you know, what's your vision? Is this going to be a nice subdivision? Is it going to fit in? And is it going to have curb appeal? The town approves the zones. You come in and you say, I have R2, I want to build this thing. They say, fine. And that's the end of it. They don't come and and inspected, or the building inspector does, but they're sort of on their own. Somebody in the middle there, I think a Gordon McPherson in there, and say, give me your subdivision, I'll tell you how to do it, how to put the controls on so that when you finish it, it'll be something that you will be proud of. And I don't think, but if you're there to make money, you're gonna make money quickly, you're gonna go and fill her up with 100% if possible. If, for example, I think Serge can correct me, but I think there's a couple of acres in the Briar Jones subdivision, and there's 20 houses. In the area which is talking about here, it's about 15 acres. How many units? 150. 150. How many three-story buildings? I don't know, but you can put three-story buildings, or when you can't. So, and this is something I think the town, I don't know how you deal with this, because you let these fellows in there, if they're out to make money, good. If they're out to beautify the community, good. But I think there's a problem with, and it's a very difficult problem. I don't know the solution. But if we had some further controls of the town, of the vision, never mind what, how many buildings, but what's it gonna look like when it's finished? And our, this little area here next to my house, that's a green space. That was reserved there in either 2015 or 2021. And as soon as that was done, Manny was out there planting trees. And yesterday he was sundown cutting the grass. They were very proud of that area. And that I understand from Margaret. That's not part of this deal, but it's shown there. So there's something there. Again, it's nice to be back. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, sir. I see someone else.
My name is Mike Gleason, 15 Georgetown Road, and if I understand correctly, I'll be one of the places that's first affected by the things going up.
On 15 Georgetown?
I'm on 15 Georgetown. I'm Margaret's neighbor. Yeah, just on the left there.
You're 19 or 15?
15.
I believe you're already.
Oh, you're currently zoned R2.
I'm already zoned
Yes,
R2?
yeah.
Would appear so, sir.
It's just 17 and 19 Georgetown.
Not to say you
Right.
can't speak, though.
That's fine. My question, but thanks for answering, because now I know I don't have to go through this if I want to. But the point I was trying to make is, I understand I'm going to be one of the first people to be affected, because they said, Cindy, if I understand correctly, said, going to build towards Georgetown Road first. So Jackie will be able to see what goes on. Right? But, as the former mayor said, why don't we have a concrete proposal to what they're going to do with R1 before we say, build it to R1? Because now that I know that I'm R2, I don't want to put up a Briar, I don't want to put a subdivision that's just down the road either, but I know I can, right? But so let's just have a concrete proposal, this many houses, this many buildings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, before we move on. Thank you.
David Dirksen, Strawberry Lane as well. I concur 100%. We need a concrete plan before we can, make these kind of changes. There's not enough information to go on right now, so in my opinion, to go ahead. Thank you.
Anybody else? So here's what I'm going to do, folks, for right now, is that, as I noted at, I do see, sorry, sir, yeah.
Good good evening, everybody. My name is René Gagnon. I live on 15 Humphrey Drive. I've been living there for close to 30 years. And I want to say, be quick, I'm not against any progress or new development, you know. I understand we need to find place for those people coming. It's so having access to apartment, house, it's a very challenge for all the city across the country. I'm aware of that. But with any new development, we have to do it right, okay? And tonight, in the consultation that we have tonight, it's about really two neighborhoods, okay, that are composed mainly by single unit, right? So this is what we have. And with any new development, I think you have to look at what are the surrounding. And this is what we have. Mainly two neighborhood with mainly a single unit. So you cannot come and put new building like duplex, triplex, quadruplex, apartment building in that neighborhood. It doesn't, I cannot imagine that as the logos, the motto say for the city of Stratford. I don't see it. And my question is to you guys, what do you see? I'm looking at the word vision. And what do you see? What will be looking the next future neighborhood of Stratford in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Is it going to be looking like Briar Ross Lane? Briar Jones. I don't want to see that. You know, for me, that this is not a street. This is a parking lot. This is what it is, and we talk a lot about it tonight, right? And is it something that you guys see in 20 years, 30 years? Neighborhood like this, full of car.
Yeah.
And you know, if you want to build that kind of house, I'm not against it. We need to, as I said, we need new place and new, but build it somewhere where look at the surrounding before you build anything totally different, because it doesn't match. And this is why people here tonight, I think, are upset about it, because the new development doesn't match what we have right now. So that's my point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is certainly, I think, a question that we can answer. I mean, it may not be the most satisfying answer for right now, but what I can advise you, sir, is that what we are in the very beginning stages of is engaging in a consultation process to amend and update our official plan to do exactly what your question is addressing. Mm-hmm. What does the future of Stratford look like? It comes at a time, I think, as you've recognized, that there's unprecedented demand for housing, unprecedented pressures upon housing. And certainly our municipality is not alone in recognizing that. I mean, it's across the country, but it's certainly happening across the bridge in Charlottetown, and they're engaging in that process. And I mean, they're a little further ahead of us, I think, in terms of that process, but our process is underway. We've engaged in beginning with a consultant, and part of that process is doing a lot of exactly what we're doing here tonight, is soliciting input from the residents of the town, getting a sense of what people want out of this community, what people expect from this municipality. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's fair to say that Stratford is going through a growth process. We are the fastest growing community, and we have been for some time in Prince Edward Island. That will likely stay the way that is, provided we have housing stock to provide to people. Mm-hmm. That's part of this process tonight. It is not, though, growth at all costs, and I can certainly tell you that, and everybody here in this meeting. What I can advise people is that, and I certainly recognize the comments that have been made with respect to people wanting to see more of a plan, more of a concrete plan. That's not a bad point to make, absolutely. There are certain obligations that planning board has to make in terms of when a request is made for a public meeting. There's a certain legal test that has to be met. And if that legal test is met, it's not necessarily something the council can deny to say, no way. That's why we're here. We're hearing from you. On your point in terms of the future, that is something we are engaging with. I encourage everybody in this room to engage with that process when the time comes. All I can say is stay tuned. We're in very early stages of that process. This is part of that to a certain extent, but one of our councillors, Mr. Dowling, I think he's somewhere in the room. I mean, if you tune into council to hear him speak at times. I think what you'll hear from him, and it's a fairly consistent theme, is he wishes that, you know, really before we make decisions such as this, we have that process follow through with the official plan amendment. There's some who would say we can't wait. There's a tension there, absolutely. That's why we're looking at things as they come up with the eye towards the future, though.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more thing since I'm here. Would you like to share with us who is the company behind this project? Because
they're here.
I know the representative is here, but is it at this main office located in PEI, in the Maritime, anywhere in Canada or outside Canada? Where is the main office of your company?
The address that they was on the paper.
Okay, can you tell us, please? I'd like to know. Can you
Yes,
tell?
in Lower Montague.
In Lower Montague.
We want to move to Stratford.
But where is your main office? That's my question.
It's
Then,
in Lower Montague.
in Lower Montague. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Sheila Robinson. I live on St. Catharines Avenue. Unfortunately, because Briar Jones is such a really bad example of what a subdivision could look like, this room is full, be that as it may. What happened there's, I think, a few mistakes were made. When I drove through Kelly subdivision today, it's a lovely subdivision. It's very appointed, there's no cars on the road, there's lots of room for the houses. It's a completely different look and feel to what we drive by every day. We do not want to see that, the end of our street. And so that's why we're a little upset, and we should have had a plan. I know that's not the process, but it's hard to put a rubber stamp on something that's totally unknown. The other thing is, special considerations are often done by council. So R2 only means triplexes or 3 units, however you say. Council can decide, I'm going to put up a 4-unit with, you know, very little consideration. That I have a problem with, and that does happen. So just a little note there.
Well, I guess, are you speaking about variances
Yes.
from zoning?
Well, they're called special considerations.
There's conditional use.
Special
and then there's
permit
permit
uses.
uses.
Whatever.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
what they're called.
But all I can say is that in those areas, we can't do that, ma'am, without letting people know that that's a request. It's never something that's done.
But does it go to does it go to a public meeting? If that was, you know, the plan was to put a triplex there and the next thing you know, it's going to be a 4-unit, that doesn't go to public meeting, that's just approved by council, correct?
So
Yes.
within an R2 zone,
You cannot put a 4 without special consideration from council.
a 3 you can, as
Yes.
a permitted, a 4 goes up to council
Right.
as a conditional use or a special permit use, depending on how many in the, how many
Yeah,
in the
they
area.
need certain
So, yeah.
footage. No, I understand that, but,
But a special permit use does go to a public meeting.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
does. Conditional use does not, though, so that's fair to say.
okay.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
thank
that
you.
is fair to say.
If I can just make one point, and we talked about the concept plan, how important it is to see that. Just for clarification purposes, and we're bound by this, the Planning Act does not allow for conditional rezoning. In other words, you can't show a plan and say, this is what I'm going to build if we get this rezoning. The Planning Act does not allow that. It's called a conditional rezoning. It's not permitted. However, we can do our due diligence in going forward, even in this process, getting to the next stage of going to the planning committee and bringing all the information we need to the planning committee and say, and they may say, well, we need more than that. We need more information here, information there, whatever the case may be. And at the end of the day, there's nothing to say that another public meeting wouldn't be held. I'm not saying that at a step, but that council has that right. So, and Councilor McDonald's correct. Our current documents need to be improved. They do. We all recognize that. They've been piecemeal for a lot of years, in the last couple of years. And hopefully this new official plan and bylaw comprehensive review is going to take us in a better direction because there's going to be a lot of engagement where all of you and the rest of the residents can come together and speak to what the new vision is for the town of Stratford. And hopefully that'll get us in the direction that the majority of the residents want. And we certainly need that guidance as staff, because we rely on those documents based on process and requirements and all different things. So we're bound to what that official plan and bylaw is today, even though it may be outdated. So it kind of handcuffs us right now as well. And it doesn't make me happy, because I know there's things that can be done better. I'll leave it at that. But thank you.
Well, sir, I'll just ask you to just, there is somebody approaching. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robin Hewitt. I live at 28 Humphrey Drive. I want to thank the members of the council here for their time and for their patience and very kind words. I also wanted to recognize the people who spoke. As you can tell, this is a moment that we're all kind of feeling. So, first of all, I know you mentioned that there are 14 points, I believe, that you look at, that you mentioned that there are points that we should look at if we want to contest this. So could you share with us? Yeah, that'd be great,
Yeah.
because it wasn't in the letter for us to look through. And if people wish to write about this, because we don't want to hold everybody up here this evening, so if you could share that with us and maybe make it public after this meeting, so people can write it down or get a copy.
So, absolutely, Mr. Ruff has put them on the screen. This is part of our zoning and development bylaw.
Yep,
And this is
which
under
I have.
3.2.2 of that zoning and development bylaw. It is certainly
Okay.
found on our website. It's found in other areas as well, but I'll read them out. And then this is found online fairly easily. So I'll just read into for the record. It says, the Planning, Development, Heritage Committee and Council shall consider the following general criteria when reviewing applications for development bylaw or official plan amendments as applicable. A, conformity with all requirements of this bylaw. B, conformity with the official plan. C, conformity with provincial land use policies pursuant to the Planning Act. D, suitability of the site for the proposed development, including the preservation of existing site features and earthworks as proposed. E, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses. F, any comments from residents or other interested persons. G, adequacy of existing infrastructure such as water, sewer, road, stormwater, electrical services, and parkland. H, the economic environmental viability of any proposed utility, road extensions or development and maintenance of public open spaces. I, impacts from the proposed development on all modes of transportation, including access and safety. J, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding environmental, aesthetic, scenic, and heritage features. K, impacts on town finances and budgets. L, other matters as specified in this bylaw. And M, other matters as considered relevant by council.
Thank you. So I encourage everybody here, if you have a point to make regarding this, that you use those points in a letter before Monday, the September 23rd?
Tell you, it is September 23rd until 12 p.m. on that Monday, by email or by mail, or hand delivery. But certainly, Ms. Hewitt, I do appreciate that. That is absolutely, it's vital.
That's what we need.
For planning staff, for planning committee and council to understand. Because as Mayor Ogden had noted, and I appreciate you bringing this up, that there is, we are certainly constrained. As much as we would all love to be emperors here on the town council, we are not. We are actually completely constrained by planning and development law as well as municipal law and provincial law. We have to act in very narrow guidances. Certainly we take guidance from our citizens. That's number one always. But as Mr. Mayor has noted, the so-called will of the people has its certain limits within the law, and it's something that when we're considering this, we absolutely need to consider it through the lens of our legislation.
Legislation, and you're representing the people here.
Yes.
I'm also a former resident of Lower Montague, so I also have concerns about the applicant. Thank you.
Sure.
Quick point of clarification, and I'm not sure where the meeting is moving after this, but it's gone way over time. Just so people are aware here who might not be, I see so many here from beautiful Strawberry Lane development, and I understand your concerns, but this meeting was also to address the building of 2 38-unit apartment buildings and 4 stacked townhouse units at the end of Hollis Avenue, which is a quiet cul-de-sac that involves 2 townhouse corporations. Presidents of both are here tonight representing our residents, as well as another street further along Hollis Balderston. So I don't know if we're going to have time to get to that. I really appreciate hearing all of your input and concerns because I think it's important for everyone to know. But my question is, how are we going to address our portion of the meeting? And are we still expected to get our input in by the same date?
It's fair. It's certainly fair. I mean, I appreciate this. We've been at it for 2 hours now. We do want to be mindful of the fact that, as you noted, there's a lot of people here who have a lot to say about it.
Yeah. Because it's not the same type of development where we live. Our concerns are also aesthetic because it's quiet and treed, but more about transportation, services, impact of access to the highway, which it doesn't exist right now, all of that. And we will have genuine concerns.
Absolutely understood. So with that in mind, folks, I'm wondering, are there opinions or input or viewpoints that people feel that they need to express? We're not looking to shut anybody down. You know, personally, I'm out past bedtime already, so it's not.
Could there be another meeting rescheduled for information for ours or not? Is that not doable?
We can talk about that. I mean, I'm reticent to do that. I'd like to see where we're going to go first. I mean, it may be that we begin the meeting and adjourn it. We do have another public meeting scheduled for Thursday as well. It may be that we seek to continue. So let's just see where we go. Okay. And then we'll address that.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, I'm not looking to cut anybody off. I'm not looking to cut short debate. I'm not looking to cut short, everyone's time who has come out here this evening to speak to this project and this proposed development and rezoning and application. I'll call upon the public now if anybody else wants to approach and ask a question.
My name's Sherry Boy. I live at 33 St. Catharines Avenue. I'm directly across from Margaret's Field.
Yeah.
When they developed Strawberry Lane, Margaret said to me, "They're developing the field, Sherry." And I said, "Oh, great." She goes, "Oh, don't worry. They're not for apartment houses. They're single house dwellings, or they're duplexes." Well, then, here you are, Margaret. You're doing it to us.
Okay, so ma'am, again,
Well,
no,
really?
no, that's not acceptable. Okay, it's really not. I appreciate what you're
Yeah,
saying,
well,
but it's
We've all
completely in
been
the realm of
neighbors
a
for a long
personality.
time here,
Yeah.
and come on. I'm just putting it on the table.
Well,
Okay? I have
I've
my
noted on a
say.
few occasions now, okay, so please.
Thank you.
I'd ask you to refrain.
Scary beer. Hi, Manuel, Margaret's son. My mom has nothing to do with the development.
Pardon me, sir?
My mother has nothing to do with the development of this. The rezoning. She's not the developer. I think. Yes, our house is included. We're not doing anything with our house. Our house is remaining our house. The only thing that's really being subdivided is where it says R1. And then above that is parkland. Sure.
Are you the son?
I'm the son, yeah.
McIntyre?
Bueno.
Bueno?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you. You cut the
Yes, sir.
grass, I know who you
Yeah,
are.
I do.
So, in relation to that, the
Yeah.
proposal originally, do I have to stand at the mic, or is it, can you hear me?
Well, we're not, okay.
I just want to reiterate what he's trying to describe.
I just like to clarify anything that's confusing, because I've seen what's the most current stuff and
So what
concerns
you're
about.
saying
Okay,
is
sir,
that you're-
sir, please, okay? I want to
Yeah.
hear from Mr. Bueno, is it?
Bueno, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So just concerns about St. Catharines connecting all the way through. I mean, it can't, because we own that land. The two won't meet unless we decide to sell.
Right.
You can see our house there. We also want it to be like nice around. We had the same concerns about Strawberry Lane. Turned out great. Before Strawberry Lane was even there, it was Earl Beaton's field. We had a great view of the water. I have no complaints about Strawberry Hill right now. you know. The entire parcel is not being subdivided. It's still our house that's been there since like the 60s.
Right, there's no subdivision request, this is just a rezoning.
No, yeah, exactly,
So,
and I think
yeah.
there's some confusion, like this is just for the subdividing and changing over from R1 to R2, because we're the only places in the area that are R1 still.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that, yeah. Anybody else, folks? Okay.
Hi, my name is Annette Hollis, and I live on 9 Dewar Drive. So I actually came to address the other letter that other people might have come to, the other rezoning issue that was sent out for this evening. And I'm really concerned about the amount of time that how the meeting has gone here. And so I'm just wondering if it's appropriate that it even continue on, and that we could address this one another time. I think your point was well made. I really enjoyed hearing a lot of the comments about the troubles that you're having. You're concerned about your subdivision, and it's a beautiful subdivision, and I appreciate that. But I couldn't help but sit there hearing people talk about their concerns about rental properties when what's being proposed for behind my house is 2 apartment buildings. So I think that's a huge issue too, and it's 5 after 9. And I don't think we've had enough time to even consider this. So I'm not sure, I'm new to this is a new town hall meeting to me, but I just think, in my own opinion, just sitting there, it's just, I think this was extremely too much to try to address in one meeting. Fair?
Well, sure, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
You know, it's extremely intimidating when you're just a homeowner in a subdivision, and we're educated. We don't know how to proceed or how to discuss this. We know what our concerns are amongst our neighbors and how we talk about it, but to come here and talk about it in this format is it's intimidating, and I just couldn't help but be overwhelmed by, you know, the pride that you have in your subdivisions and your concerns, and, you know, Stratford is many subdivisions, and we all know that. I live in Reeves Estates, and I know exactly what Reeves Estates is. And we were so excited about the new development that came in through Hollis Street with homeowners and people coming in to own their homes. And the different atmosphere that created for our subdivision. So, I mean, I could talk at length, but I can't because it's 10 after 9. And there may be other people, if I have a chance to talk, that it'll inspire them to say a few things about that. So I have many concerns, but I don't want to be able to address it now if I...
Right, and
So-
as I stated, what we're trying to do is get the first meeting finished and then see where we're at, and
Okay.
then make a
I just
plan.
thought when I heard you say that you were going to call for more people public, is this my opportunity or not? Are you going to give us a chance to talk about this proposal as well?
There's no world in which we're not going to give people the chance to
Well,
address.
that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's what we're here for.
So-
But I just want to get the first one finished so we can see where we're at.
Then you've answered my first question.
Yeah.
This is not an appropriate time yet for us to start this because you haven't,
No.
this is not a good time.
No.
Okay?
But appreciate why you're
Yeah.
antsy, I get it. So I just want to get the first one done, and
I
then.
think there was a lot of people in this room probably didn't even realize that there's 2 issues on being addressed. No, nobody, we only got our letter, so I thought, oh, wow, look, everybody's coming in here from our subdivision. Nobody knew. So, I mean, there was a lot of conversations being taken place just about your issue, and I've sat for 2.5 hours, so appreciating your discussions and hearing what you had to say, but it's, to be honest with you, everything that, you know, it was funny to hear the developer of your proposed thing talk about, oh, we wouldn't want to interrupt your subdivision. We wouldn't want rental properties to be there. We want to keep it a nice subdivision. And I'm sitting here listening, and this is what's being proposed for behind mine.
Yep, okay.
Anyway, I'll just leave
Yep.
it at that. If this isn't the appropriate time, there's lots.
We're going to give you the time, though. Yeah.
I'll make it really quick. Kelly Galloway, 24 Humphrey Drive. I just thought, as some previous people were chatting there, with the challenges of sharing information, allowing people who might have information or concerns or questions they might like to express to most easily do that, and also to help dispel incorrect information, et cetera. I just threw together, created a little impromptu Facebook group called Stratford Rezoning, just for no other purpose, that if anyone in this room would like to continue the conversation, or if they want to communicate, send something into council, get questions answered, dispel myths, et cetera, whatever, just informally behind the scenes, if people want to discuss things, share information, there's a place where you could do that.
Great.
So
Just,
just searched Stratford rezoning. As soon as I just sent a link to a couple of people I'm connected with. As soon as a couple of people are on it, it should be pretty easy to find. But I put a little description. It says just to discuss issues related to Stratford rezoning.
just not trying to discourage you in any way, shape, or form,
Yep.
but I'm asking if there is something that, you know, is put on that group, that's not necessarily something that we have the ability to consider. So if there's things written there, ensure that they are
Yep.
put into the proper way.
Yeah, like my thought was when Robin was saying, you know, what are the 14 points? You know, some people in this room who may not be very tech savvy may have some difficulty in accessing things on the website, knowing, you know, what to put in a letter if they do have concerns, or they want to support the project one way, whatever, one way or the other. Just a place where maybe some other neighbors and friends could help facilitate some of that communication. That's all.
Great.
So Stratford rezoning.
Okay. Sir, no, honestly, no, at this point. No, sir, there are people who may want to address council. Yeah, so am I. Okay, seeing nobody else, I am going to just confirm with our staff online to see if there's anybody who's submitted anything. Just, don't know if you guys have any indication if we got anything online that people are asking?
Here we are.
No? Okay.
Have the August minutes
I'm
been posted,
That I don't know. I'm not sure.
and why not?
Why don't I know?
No, why aren't they posted?
Well, I
They
just said,
told me they were online, just like you're saying now.
I said I don't know.
Go online and you'll see the minutes. I went on with Phil,
Yeah.
Ruff, and myself, and we searched the website, the town, to look for those minutes, and they're not there. So I was told they were there, but they're not there. Is there a reason?
Who told you?
Philip Ruff.
August council or August planning, there's difference.
Council meeting.
So yes, they have been posted, they were posted Friday, I believe.
I went online yesterday and they were not there.
They're up there now, I just pulled them up.
Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you, folks. I appreciate it. It has been a long evening. There is a process that I have to follow here, and there are 2 letters that I have to read into the record. They are from adjacent landowners.
One of them was addressed, 15 St. Catherine's. What was the inquiry on that?
Okay. So I just want to confirm. So just, I want to confirm, Phil, this one was,
Yes.
okay, I will read this into the record. This is from a citizen who resides in the area. It is redacted to protect privacy. She notes that her family has lived in the location for approximately 7 years. They're writing in response to the town of Stratford's letter to potentially rezone the block of land. For the record, my family is not in favor of the town approving this rezoning, this application. I am respectfully sharing the following points for consideration by council. And I have included on this email some of the town councilors that I know well. 1, the current zoning of R1 would appear to allow the property to be developed as single-family homes while also having 20% of a block on a conditional use basis as semi-detached. Based on this information, it would appear that the existing R1 zoning and the flexibility within that zoning matches the legacy developments on Pine Hill Drive, St. Catharines Avenue, and the newer Strawberry Hill subdivision, and should be the primary reason why this zoning application is denied. Two, the current developer purchased the land with the R1 zoning and would have done so with a reasonable expectation that the parcel of land would have had to be developed as zoned. The R1 zoning fits with the character and spirit of the legacy developments that surround these parcels of land. Three, from a personal perspective, when I bought my lot, and I won't say where, and was researching the area and investigating the vacant land behind me, I was advised by the planning staff of the day that any application to rezone this land would most likely be unsuccessful because its currently R1 zoning actually matched the legacy developments around it, which are single-family homes. I appreciate that the town had provided no guarantee to me as a prospective new build in the area regarding what might happen with the land behind my house in the future. However, the conversation at the time made good sense to me, and I still think it is the right approach. 4, the Strawberry Hill subdivision is a shining example of a successful R2 development. However, its success is linked to the developer himself and not the zoning principles applied. Single-family homes are selling for north of $1 million within the subdivision, and the semi-detached units are in the $425,000 range. It is a beautiful subdivision with many restrictive covenants that are strictly enforced by the developer that still lives in the subdivision. By leaving the current request zoned R1, the town of Stratford should be more than thrilled to have 10 to 12 new single-family dwelling building lots to offer residents. The parcels up for rezoning are beautiful pieces of property tucked away in Stratford that will eventually attract expensive single-family homes, which should also be a key pillar of any development strategy within the town. In my opinion, after having lived for a period of time in Stratford, there remains a lot of vacant land in Stratford and the surrounding areas that is ripe for development. Targeting these areas can easily accommodate the goals of town planning and new developers without negatively impacting existing neighborhoods. Infilling older neighborhoods will happen organically, and Stratford's efforts should be directed at the large amount of vacant land within the town or into expanding the town boundaries to capture more taxpayers that are currently enjoying many of our investments and services without the associated property tax bill that pays for these types of things. The Briar-Jones development is a huge concern for residents and planning staff. Council need to take it into consideration when looking at rezoning in this area. I can only speculate that the planning expectations from the town when this development was approved do not meet its current state. Viable public transit that can allow people to live in Stratford and work outside the community and commute to work without owning a car is still 20-plus years away. New developments need adequate parking for residents. Sufficient parking for each new dwelling is required. Briar-Jones supports this point of view. It is in the heart of Stratford, located near bus routes and services. However, there are too many cars in the development. Stratford needs to do better from a planning perspective when it comes to driveway or parking standards imposed on new developments, and make sure the standards imposed will match how the new developments will be used by future tenants, while permitting the deficit in public transportation an appropriate amount of time. It is all over the news, however, the quote affordable housing issue that all provinces, cities, and municipalities are wrestling with seems to be impossible to explain at a household level, i.e. what does affordable housing cost someone on a monthly basis? And a rezoning from R1 to R2 in this instance is doing nothing to advance the town's efforts in this area. 8, there was a Summerside news story about zoning. Hopefully the allure of funding from the quote Federal Housing Accelerator Fund is not driving Stratford's appetite to entertain rezoning applications like this one. Unfortunately, many federal programs are targeting only short-term results, which match an election cycle, and not the long-term investment horizon associated with purchasing or building a house in Stratford. Careful consideration is required when attempting to tip over money from federal programs as they are set up to meet national needs, but are blind to local considerations. And that is a letter from one of the adjacent landowners. And that was, that's part of the process that we have to follow with the public meeting. So now that comments have been received here on the record, I will advise people of next steps, and they are as follows. As already noted, written comments will be received until 12 p.m. on Monday, September 23rd, 2024, by email to Mr. Ruff, and his email is prough@townofstratford.ca, or hand-delivered to the Town Center Planning Department. Planning Board for discussion and recommendation to Council will occur on October the 1st, 2024. Town Council will meet for the first reading of the proposed rezoning bylaw on October 9th, 2024, and should that proceed, Town Council would meet for a second reading and adoption of a rezoning bylaw on November the 13th, 2024. So that is our first presentation. I do want to thank everybody for your patience. I want to thank everybody for all of the comments and your participation in this process here this evening. It goes without saying, there's a lot of passion for your neighborhood, and there's a lot of concerns about how this has come up. That's absolutely why we're doing this. As at least one of the individuals who came forward noted, this is all part of the process. It's important and it's valuable, and we take everything that is being said here tonight. We take everything that's being written in. We take everything that's been submitted to date. with the utmost of seriousness, understanding, as one of the presenters noted, it's absolutely vital, though, that we consider that through the lens of our zoning development bylaw and sound planning principles. I do appreciate everybody for coming here tonight. I will adjourn this first portion of the meeting. I will speak now to the second presentation. I am very mindful of the time. It's certainly not my preference to have run so late. I'm sure that's nobody's preference here. I do think, I'll just take one brief moment, folks. I won't leave you waiting. I do want to confer with our town staff. I want to confer with our CAO as well about proceeding. I don't believe it's anyone's best interest to proceed at this point in time, but I do need to confer with staff on that point. I'll just ask for one moment. I won't keep you any longer than I need to. Okay, thank you. Yep. Okay, I'll just ask for one more call for order, please. Okay, so here's where we're at in terms of the proceedings. It is, let me see here, it's 9:30, and we're trying to be very mindful and respectful of everybody's time here this evening. We have two options, essentially, under our law. So we can proceed tonight, or the other option is that we stand this meeting down, and we have to resend out new notification letters for another public meeting at a later time. Unfortunately, our bylaws do not confer upon me as chair the power to adjourn this meeting to another time, such as Thursday, as much as that would be my preference, and if the law allowed me to do that, that's absolutely what I'd be doing here tonight. So those are our two options. I have made the decision to be as respectful as I possibly can to the applicants, but also to the residents, to put their best foot forward and to ensure that we get the best quality submissions that we possibly can. We are going to stand this meeting down. We are going to send out new notification letters because there certainly may be people who, had they been aware that this was going to be adjourned, might come at a later date. And we want to make sure that we give the right to participate to as many people as we possibly can.
On our lane, we never received any notification whatsoever. And the only reason that we knew about this is because the people on Knox Lane told us about it.
Okay, so
We never knew it, got nothing, no information whatsoever.
So what we're going to do, I'll ask you to just remain for a moment. Town staff are going to get your information. We're going to make absolutely sure that you get the new notification, and we'll just got to figure out where you're at and just see if there's
all the housing along Hollis that's been put in the last decade. It's John Knox Way got the notification, and maybe some of the single-family units up there did, but Autumn Lane did not.
Okay.
There's another street below us, Broad, I always forget the name of it. It starts with a B. Baldwin, sorry. I don't know if they got notified, so it's several development, like several little streets and subdivisions.
Yep.
We only knew about it, as my husband just said, because Steve from John Knox Lane forwarded us the communication.
Okay.
We didn't get it. And so none of our residents know about it except as a communication from John.
Okay.
Fair to say that you should let us know that we'll do this. Two meetings really going on at the same time.
We're going to do that in the future.
Yeah, like, but
Yeah.
neither group had any idea that there was any other item on the agenda.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And certainly foresight is, or hindsight is 20/20. I don't know if any of us anticipated having such a large turnout for the first one. Usually, I'll be totally honest with you folks, when we schedule these public meetings, sometimes nobody comes. So, it's not to say we were taken aback, but certainly we're always encouraged when people participate in these processes, but it's just, I don't think we were prepared for the fact that we were going to be looking at such a packed house tonight with so many looking to make submissions. Yeah, sure. And we understand that, right? We understand that this is where people live. We understand that these are your backyards, and certainly so do the developers, and so do planning staff, and so does council. So to put everyone's best foot forward, especially in light of what you've just described to me, I think the just thing to do and the right thing to do is to stand this down, ensure that the notification process is as thorough as we possibly can, make sure we're not missing people, and we'll reconvene at a later date. Now, I don't think we can say when that's going to be right now, can we?
No, I wouldn't do that yet.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to tell you when, but we'll be able to get those notifications out in short order.
It's just an assurance that we would get that we are still going to have time to submit written concerns before any decision.
That's part of our legislation.
Yes.
We would never, we can't.
We're not going to rush it.
But those deadlines that you just quoted are near. Are they going to be extended?
The process would all start over.
Yes, the notification process starts over.
The notification, not the entire process, but the notification process, yes. Yeah.
So-
Sir, I think. Okay, yeah.
Just to further consider my input into the forest trails proposal, I only have one question. I didn't see it in any of my correspondence. Is it the intention of the M&J to push McIntosh Road through? Is that road going to open up at the Reeves?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can speak a little bit to that.
I'd appreciate you don't, just beyond that for
Okay.
right now. I don't want to put
Afterwards.
anything. Yeah, okay, so we're just going to adjourn this for now, folks. You know, we offer our sincerest apologies. We wish we could get to you, we really do. But after, especially hearing that the notification process isn't as complete as we'd like it to be.
I don't want to speak high of it, but Mr. J did our development, right, and he went bankrupt. It's taken us 5 years to recover from that. That's who we're dealing with.
Well, okay, and I appreciate that, and I
Appreciate it or not, it's a fact.
okay, I understand that, but for right now.
5 years.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is make sure that we're here, and we're able to speak to this in the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
I think I could
As
hear
long
his
as you listen to that
frustration
as well.
that there was an extreme underestimation about the impact that both of these proposals were going to have to the residents of the lot, especially with the history of the development, the Mr. J's subdivision.
Sure, yeah, I mean, as I stated to you, it's not an underappreciation, this was unprecedented, if that makes sense. So we do appreciate where you're at now, and that's why we're looking to make it as bright as we possibly can. Yeah, thank you, folks, I do appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.